turned 30, and I'm like, what do I have to look forward to over the next decade?
Well, dude, looking back, when I was 30 years old, I felt pretty fucking good. I felt pretty damn good. As much as I was like, man, I'm 30. I'm like, well, officially an adult. I'm an old man. Because think about when we saw a 30-year-old when we're 20, we would be like, who's this old dude? You know what I mean? Like, and we're that old dude. But now that I'm 42 and I look back and I'm 30, I'm like, my body felt really good. My body felt really good until about 36, 37. And then it was just kind of all this weird stuff happens. Like it just breaks, you know? And my dad was like, my dad's a physician. He's like, Chris, when you have a car that's gone 300,000 miles and all of a sudden you're driving and like the rear view mirror just falls off, what does the mechanic tell you? It's just an old car. Nothing happened. It just starts to fall apart, right? It's just the miles you put on your body. Eventually this starts to deteriorate. And then sometimes you get lucky and the body goes farther and sometimes it doesn't. But how you treat that body greatly determines its shelf life. So like I miss feeling physically unrestricted. Like I can go out and go do what I want versus like, ooh, I would love to do that, but I'm going to rip a hamstring if I try to play explosive flag football right now. You know what I mean? That I miss. I don't know what it's like anymore.
Like, how long were you competing for? And did you feel like amazing? And then there came like a tipping point where you're like, okay, I don't feel that great, but I'm going to keep cracking on with this thing.
I've beaten the snot out of my body. So I raced motocross my entire life up until I was 21. And I stopped racing because I was sick of breaking bones, concussions, and basically being hurt all the time. Because when you're racing motocross at a high level, you're hurt a lot. You're never 100%. And there's always a bone or something that's going to happen. And I left that for bodybuilding because I always wanted to bodybuild. Bodybuilding doesn't, it's kind of like fire and water with motocross. So I started bodybuilding and like, oh, this is great. I'm not in pain anymore. Right. But, you push your body, you get bigger and bigger. And over the years, it just starts to wear and tear. But I ignored a lot of pain. I've hurt my back tons of times, medial and lateral epicondylitis, the overuse injuries of tendonitis. Chondromalacia, tore my pec, my tricep, my hamstring. So I've been a lot of injuries to bodybuilding, but it's over the years and mainly when I was older and bigger and more advanced. But I started competing in bodybuilding in 2005 and I stopped in 2019. But I mean, hindsight, looking back, I just look at all the dumb stuff that I used to do and it was very preventable. That's why I try to teach my clients, like, you don't have to make the mistakes that I did. And there's so much more information readily available now. But when I was younger, there was no Instagram. You didn't have there was no bodybuilding coaches. You're just picking up magazines and doing what you think it's right. And then finding some random jack dude at your gym, hoping he knows what he's doing versus just being genetics and then asking him questions and then trial and error. So we always thought that heavier was better and training as hard as you can was better. And then soon enough, you realize that really wasn't, that beast mode is really not the way to go.
Do you think that you would feel different right now if the conversation was more alongside minimum effective volume, longevity, that sort of thing? Had you done that 15 years ago?
Yeah, but for me, I was never a volume guy. I was an intensity guy. So I would always do 3 exercises for legs, but I mean, I got up to squatting 405 on front squat for 8. We started lifting heavy ass weight for me. And, and obviously there's warning signs of aches and pains in my hips. I just stretch it out, ignore it, keep going, wrap the knees tighter, just keep going, take some Advil, push through it. But if I learned how to train, if I knew what it's like to train like a true bodybuilder and not just move weight, I would be way better. And I probably would have been a way better bodybuilder too. 100%. That's probably the biggest regret. It's like, Jesus, if I got my training correct, at a very young age, I would have probably turned pro way faster, and I probably would have been a good pro, a decent pro.
So when you first started out, what were the gains like? Were you also looking at, I don't know if bodybuilding.com was around back then?
Yes,
I started, I think 5 or 10 years later than you. And I found a Terry Crews workout and I just did that every day in high school for 3 years. And I didn't change it because I knew nothing about it.
Well, it's we lifted weights in high school. When I was in high school, it was just a thing to do. So we were banging weights in 8th grade, 9th grade, doing your typical bro split. We were picking up Flex magazines and stuff. And my motocross trainer didn't know at the time, but I would be doing that in the winter, deadlifting with treacherous form, trying to deadlift 315 with your back rounded. we were doing all this dumb stuff all through high school. But I always had decent genetics. Like I responded very well to weight training very quickly. And my first show I weighed 174 with kind of crappy condition. I guess you could say to today's standards, maybe 6 weeks out condition at like 174. And then the following year I stepped on stage at 186, 187 with far better condition. And I did everything myself, reading Chris Aceto's books. I read Chris Aceto's books and kind of followed what I thought was good by picking people's brains and trying to figure things out. But the initial gains are pretty consistent. I mean, I was putting on anywhere from 5 to 8 pounds of stage weight every year. And then I made a monumental jump in stage weight from 2007 to 2008. I was on stage at like 187 with pretty good condition. And then 8 months later, I was on stage at 204 with just blackout ripped condition. Because I figured it out. Fockery helped me. And he's just like, dude, you're not eating enough food in the off season. You're not training with enough volume either. But I was never a big volume guy. Like I could only do 9 sets of working for chest. My chest would get so sore. So there's certain things that like I just didn't do a lot of volume with in comparison today. And like how I coach my clients with understanding volume and how I accumulate volume over time. Like it's way different now. And if I just knew this information back then and I could read my body when it was healthy and young, I'm confident I could have easily been 280 pounds in the off season. I know I could have.
What did the eating look like? Because I mean, you're a registered dietitian, you know what you're doing. Was that just kind of like, let me read Chris Aceto's books back then and then let me get my education, or what did that look like?
Dude, you know what's really funny about that is like when I saw my first diet from Fockery, I looked at it and I'm like, I'm not eating that. And like I modified it. I didn't tell him. And this is like the worst thing you could do when you hire a coach. But it wasn't balanced. And I made it more balanced. I lowered the protein like 100 grams. It was like 500 grams of protein. And I lowered it, I think, down to like, I think 375, which is, in my opinion, then was still way too high. And I adjusted things around and added more fruits and took away some rice. Made it a little more dietitian-like, so to speak. Any dietitian wouldn't approve of that, but I made it a little different. I didn't want to eat 6 whole eggs, so I did 2 whole eggs and the rest egg whites and made up the fat difference with avocado, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Just swap things out a little bit here and there, make them a little healthier, a more variety of food, because I was going to school as a dietitian at the time of competing.
That was going to be my next like segue, because I did mainly dietetics and nutrition for my doctorate. Yeah. And I was around like a lot of dietitians who were just like, oh my God, don't eat. Like we're afraid to eat, like only eat vegetables and like no protein. And like they very much went away from like what a balanced and healthy meal looks like. And for me, like I run ultra marathons and it's like that diet's completely different from like the average person. And even from like a bodybuilder. And I was curious about how you end up like coaching your clients and how you coached yourself all those years with the bodybuilding, science, and then the actual, like, here's the peer reviewed literature. How do you bridge that gap?
Well, what's funny is my protein intake was way lower. Like Fockery helped me then, but prior to that, I was only doing like 3.5, 4 ounces of meat. And as a bodybuilder who's enhanced, that's like, dude, what are you eating? Chick portions? You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, you don't need it. And clearly I didn't, because I kept jumping stage weight 3 years in a row, only eating 4 ounces of meat, 6 meals a day. Like I was slightly over I was probably like 1.15 or 1.2 grams per pound of body weight of protein. And like, that was total protein, including everything, not just meat. So like people looked at me all the time, like, dude, you're eating 8 ounces of meat? Like, and you're a middleweight? What? I couldn't grasp my head around it because I just didn't think it was needed after looking at the literature and stuff. But like, I understand now, the difference between body composition, what my higher protein intake can help with, especially those who are genetically chubbier, because protein, as you know, doesn't turn to fat as easy as carbs or fat. So like, it can be used as a tool for multi reasons. Even though you're not going to utilize all of it, it can still be used as a tool. But I'm definitely the huge outlier in the industry of not pushing the protein as everybody else does. I'll tell you that. I still see some plans. I'm just like, dude, how are you eating 600 grams of protein and you're like a light heavyweight? Or, you know, like there's so many nutrient dense foods that you're missing out on because you're eating all this crap, you know?
It's interesting to hear that. And I like that point that you touched on of protein. And we have, like, obviously we know about the thermic effect of food and how protein, for whatever reason, isn't as readily taken up as adipose tissue or body fat as much as like carbs or, fats. But then there are folks on the internet who are just like, they're almost like afraid of protein, so to speak. They don't want to go around like zero point 0.7 grams per pound. And I'm like, you can push that up for body comp reasons, especially if you're like a stress eater. But if you are looking to do something performance based, whether it's like endurance, strength, bodybuilding, you need to push up those nutrient dense carbs, which are made up of like cellulose and fructose, which again won't be as readily taken up as body fat as like just excess glucose
Yeah,
from like
yeah.
carbs, rice or something.
No, I agree. I mean, like I've helped a few you ultra marathoners before, and it's just like, I adjust protein to the appetite of the individual. Like I'm not putting them on tons of protein because they need the carbohydrate intake. They need it. Obviously, you get GI distress if you're eating so much food that's just not leaving the stomach fast enough. But so many people are afraid of protein. You're right, and the problem is like they pigeonhole themselves into a belief without looking at the individual aspect of the protein requirements for that person. Like if somebody's eating their caloric needs and they're always hungry, I'm going to adjust their macros to more protein and lower the carbohydrates so they have a little slower gastric emptying and they feel better. Maybe bump the vegetables up, change things around a little bit. So like, I make adjustments based on the individual for that reason. I don't just, everybody has to eat 1.25 or 1 or 1.5. I think that's silly. And I think that's where dietitian school, I don't even know if being a dietitian and going through all that RD stuff really made me think like that. It's just more like practical application because I know so many RDs in school that were just so one way. And honestly, most RDs are very one way. You can't do that. You're going to rot your kidneys. It's like, where do you hear that from? Like, as being a health professional, there's not a shred of evidence to suggest that. And when they like have one way of doing something universally for a large group of people, I don't like that because there's no individuality in it. There's no practical application. I don't like that. I have a trouble with that. And I don't understand how people get like that. Maybe because they don't know, maybe they lack the experience, maybe they're open-minded. But I think sometimes people really like to feel like they know a lot by attaching to simple, small concepts, kind of like the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? They're like, this is the right way to do it. I know. You don't, because as you know, the smarter people that you know in any type of interest, PhDs, when you ask them a straight answer, they never give you when you ask them a straight question, they never give you a straight answer. You walk away from that conversation being like, I don't even know if he answered my question, because there's really no absolutes in many cases, like in principles, when people are being like, what's the best for fat loss? Continuous steady state cardio or hit cardio? Should I do fasted cardio or after my first meal? Like, what's the best? And as soon as I hear people say what is the best, I'm like, they don't know. They don't know. you know?
I drive my older brother nuts because he's just like, hey, Mike, can you make me a meal plan and tell me what to eat? And I'm like, well, and then like 10 minutes later, he's like, stop talking.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I can't just talk about one thing. I have like 10 follow-up questions and everyone's unique.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the tough part. How do you get big? Oh, okay. That's a tough one. You know what I always answer people online? People see me in public and they see that I'm fit and they're like, oh my God, you look great. Like, how old are you? 42? Man, what's your secret? Like, what's the secret? The simplest thing I say all the time: consistency. And they go, well, what do you mean? I'm like, when's the last time you been to the gym? Oh, yeah, it's been like about 4 months. Yeah. Doesn't matter what your plan is. If you're not consistent with it, nothing's going to work. And honestly, if you work with people, you know that the lack of discipline and consistency is people's problems. There's a gazillion programs out there that will yield results. But if you don't follow it, you don't stick with it, it's not going to work.
Are you even seeing that with your clients who you've coached over the years, that they want to work with IFBB Pro, and it really just comes down to like they want like a therapist / best friend? Or do you also have people who are very type A and they're like, Chris, I want to win the Olympia this year?
Oh, are you asking me different clientele? Is that what you mean? Different levels? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because it almost doesn't matter. It's like you could have like the personal trainer down the street at LA Fitness, and they're going to be dealing with people who, like, in general, just need, like, a therapist, so to speak, of like, oh, well, I want to get here.
Oh,
But then there's people who are willing to pay a couple $1,000s a month who also need that exact same thing.
yeah. Um, I have a lot of clients, a lot, and half of them are general weight loss. General, you call them Gen Pop issues, whether it's digestive issues, weekend warrior CrossFitters, or whatever. Um, most of them are looking for direction and a plan to follow to have that's going to give them the result they're looking for. But predominantly a lot of weight loss. But I guess I'm pretty lucky. Like I guess I don't tolerate people that have poor adherence. It's just like I'm just gonna. What do you want me to do here? It's like you're paying me, all right, and I'm gonna need something more from you, and if not, I'm gonna have to let you go. Oh, really? Yeah, because I want you to get results. It's frustrating when I'm answering email after email, and it's like, oh, I ate off plan. Oh, I couldn't make it. I forgot to make my meals. I, dude, what do you want me to do with this? Like, yeah, you're paying me every month, but I don't want that because I have a gazillion other people on my wait list that are willing for direction and they want it and they're going to be disciplined for it.
It's almost like that idea of you have to find people who attract the same energy as you. And a
Yes.
lot of, like, the best coaches, like, they have to, like, if their client's going to be here, they have to come to that point and meet them there and then walk together. But a lot of times it turns into this relationship of, like, the coach trying a little bit to drag them along, and it's like, you know what, this isn't good for either of us. Like, I'm okay firing you as a client because this isn't making me happy.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I'm very lucky because my guys, I call them the boys, my boys, all my male competitors, I have a really good group of guys. And that group is, it's a lot. But like I have a real, maybe because I do track the same energy and we jive well. I don't have any problem clients. I really don't. I have no guys where I'm just like, dude, what the hell? I'm really tight with a lot of my guys, especially the ones I've had for years, and I have a very high client retention. So I think there's probably a lot to be said about that, like the energy put out, the energy receive, right? You know, and if they're not, I end up being like, listen, I can't help you here,
One thing you've been posting about on your Instagram recently that I was interested to talk about, because I'd spoken with a couple bodybuilders over the past couple weeks, was the gut and gut health specifically. How is that typically for a bodybuilder coming up who needs to be pounding food a lot more than maybe they would like to? How have you been able to circumvent that with your nutrition knowledge?
A lot of that knowledge came from my own issues because I got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis in 2015, and I don't have a family history of it. And the doctor says your biopsy came back with characteristics of Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. So basically, he said to me, Chris, the inflammation in your intestines is insane. And he's just like, nothing you can do about it nutrition wise. You're going to have to take some meds. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know if that's right. That doesn't sound right to me. So, I mean, I struggled with it for a couple of years trying to bodybuild, and obviously bodybuilding diet and ulcerative colitis and the lifestyle in general is not really conducive to a healthy gut. You're going to have to take it because I never took a step back. You have to take a way step back to be able to heal the gut, get it back, and then go back to forth to bodybuilding again. But I mean, in a nutshell, bodybuilders trigger so much of their gut issues through their lifestyle. Excessive hard training that's stimulating your central nervous system all the time, sympathetic nervous system all the time. Stimulants, pre-workouts, androgens, high androgen drugs can stimulate your sympathetic nervous system. So you're constantly out of that rest and digest side, which can create systemic fatigue. As you know, being an endurance athlete, when you're constantly in those in that sympathetic side, you can get a lot of GI upset. A lot of endurance athlete guys are just have a lot of issues, especially like, running 50, 60 miles, like your gut's like, no, you know? And then of course the diet ends up being very limited in variety. You limit the variety, you limit exposure to the gut, doesn't get used to breaking down a multitude of foods. The gut microflora becomes depleted. Then you have an inflamed, depleted gut microflora, which can turn into most of the time just IBS symptoms, severe IBS symptoms, maybe some colitis, but it rarely turns into ulcerative colitis, but it does with the susceptible individuals. And that's the progression of how GI issues occur in bodybuilding. In bodybuilder, they just want to throw drugs at it or supplements. I'll just take probiotics and digestive enzymes. I'm not going to eat these foods because they cause me problems. Now I'm stuck to eating only 3 foods. I'm going to stay with this. And then the gut just gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until they fix it. And fixing it is basically just doing everything in reverse. Removing a lot of the intense exercises like squats, deadlifts, barbell row. In other words, reforming the training so it's not as stimulating of the sympathetic nervous system or CNS as strong for a little bit. More machine work, more chest supported work, so you're not beating the shit out of the body as much. Managing stress, sleep, anxiety, those are very important. Limiting stimulants, getting rid of highly androgenic drugs out of the regimen of the athlete. And then as far as nutrition standpoint, it's kind of like reintroducing a variety of foods in small portions, restoring the gut microflora with sauerkraut, kombucha, very, very small and progressing over time. In that point in time, you can also obviously remove the problem foods. You're not going to keep all the problem foods, which would be considered the high FODMAP stuff in the diet when you're doing this. You'd start slow and work your way back, getting that variety of food in the diet. And then, of course, you got to bring calories down. You can't do this in a surplus. It has to be almost near a calorie deficit for it to really work because, as you know, gut gets inflamed. What's the best thing for the gut? Bowel rest. NPO, nothing by mouth, for 24 hours to let everything calm down, and then you can kind of go back at it again. I'm not saying someone has to fast for 24 hours, but I'm just giving the example of like you can't exactly rebuild your gut microflora slamming 2,000 calories above what you need every day. It's just your digestive system can't take it. It's working overtime all the time.
With all of that in mind, is there, I guess, because we touched upon consistency, would there be a huge advantageous edge for someone like even longevity wise if they just like steadily grew throughout and they said, hey, I want to be really successful in, let's just say, bodybuilding, and instead of like saying I'm going to try and gain this much weight in this amount of time, let me steadily grow. And if we're speaking in terms of the gut, they won't have to be pounding food. They can just almost progressively overload their calories. Because
Yeah,
I've been there too with ultra running where I'm eating 5,000 calories a day. And after a season, like my legs aren't tired. My mind isn't tired. My ass is tired. Like I'm tired
yeah,
of just like eating and shitting all day long. And I'm like, I gotta
yeah,
stop this.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. So bodybuilders tend to fall to extremes. They're in a hurry. They chase the scale. And I think almost every bodybuilder, oh, I'm going to say every bodybuilder, but a lot of bodybuilders who are my age look back and be like, should have slowed down a little bit because, you can only grow so fast. And if you're chasing the scale, you're just going to grow your gut and you're just going to eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. Look at the scale. I'm not gaining weight. Eat, 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 eat. Your stomach's going to expand. You're going to cause a lot of inflammation and you're not going to be able to assimilate as muscle as much. I mean, look at some of these classic guys and even some of the bodybuilders that are continuously growing but still keeping their waist tight. Is something to be said about that. I mean, it's possible. You don't need to force feed the body. You can't force growth on the body. You can't just be like, I'm going to gain 10 pounds next year of muscle. Doesn't work that way as much as people think it is. They think it's a mathematical equation. It's not. So, eating enough to fuel training and making sure that your weight is trending up over time, but gradually, like I've had a lot of guys put on a substantial amount of muscle by keeping their waist tight. One of them is one of the guys up here, Jesse. He put on 9 pounds, I say close to 11 pounds of stage weight in a year. And his waist stayed completely tight the entire time. And we stayed lean the entire year. And he grew new tissue. It was a constantly push and pull of the calories at times. But I mean, we were able to do that versus some guys who just literally push calories up. Eventually the body just goes, nope, I'm not doing that. And then you get fat, you get lethargic, sleep falls apart, digestion falls apart, appetite falls apart, training goes to shit. And then they're not in a good spot. So it's kind of like rearranging your nutrition to making sure that energy and training is optimized all the time. You can't exactly grow a bunch of muscle when you feel like garbage all the time. You're not sleeping because you gain too much weight, you're chubby, and you're force feeding food.
Is there a way to be on stage and be that lean and not go through like a huge rebound phase? Like, can you safely reverse diet back up again? Like with that, I
Yeah,
mean, obviously
yeah.
your hormonal milieu is going to be like a little bit jacked up. So like you're going to have to gain the weight, but some people just go nuts with the rebound. Like what have you seen in your
Yeah, so
experience?
really your post-show rebound is really being dictated by two things: your ability to exercise discipline during a time where you don't have to be restricted, and three, how extreme you had to go to get down to that body fat. Now, my guys don't have a problem with that because I diet people over a longer period of time. Where if they're crash dieting, they're losing 35 pounds in 12 weeks, doing 2 hours of cardio a day on fish and greens, they're going to probably lose it after the show and they're going to blow up and gain a bunch of weight. I mean, Jordan right now is up. He's only up 18 pounds from Olympia and he still has striated glutes. So if you look at the percent of weight gain for somebody who stepped on stage, no, what am I saying? I apologize. No, he's only up 11 pounds from Olympia. So he was on stage around 258 and he was 270 the other day, 269. And that's him eating full food. And he still got striated glutes. And it's been what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks since the Olympia about around there, I think. It's very possible. And it's done all the time. But like my strategy with a lot of guys is I give them an astronomical amount of food in their baseline plan right away, because I don't want them binge eating on peanut butter and chips and whatever they can find in the house. So like if I front load them with an absurd amount of food right out of the gate, 3 days post show, they're like, "Oh bro, like I'm pretty full. Like I want to eat some junky food, but like I can totally have the discipline and fight the cravings because my stomach's so full." I mean, are you really going to get chubby eating fruit, rice, and oatmeal in a week? No. But if you're eating very, very calorically dense foods, eating jars of peanut butter and sketching out in peanut butter and jellies and ice cream and candy, you're going to put on weight very fast. So I usually have guys pretty much under control, but you can definitely reverse out of it and maintain a lean physique, very lean physique for that matter. But obviously, genetics plays a role, right? There's some bodies that don't want to be lean. They really don't. So like those guys can obviously maintain a leaner version of themselves, but like some dudes got to do above and beyond to get striated glutes, and those glutes disappear within the first week post show. Like they're like, I'm gonna put fat on them because like I don't like being this lean. Or some dudes can really maintain an abnormally lean physique for a long time.
Do you also think that, or is your approach more in line with, let's take what I've learned and practiced as a dietitian and consume more nutrient dense foods, as opposed to like giving people the out of like the flexible dieting approach? Because like even like in my experience the past like 5-10 years, it's been easier to stay lean and healthy because I enjoy eating nutrient dense foods. And I feel like with people who are looking for that little out, they have a really difficult time like having bland nutrient dense foods. And I'm like, well, no, I enjoy fruits and veggies and whole grains, and I know it's gonna make me feel good, and I'm not gonna binge on something.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question. Well, I don't know I don't know if dietitian is like, I don't know if that's taught me that because I don't think it has. I encourage a variety. And the thing is this, you give a bodybuilder a variety and they end up choosing the options on the plan to make it as easy as possible. And then they're like, dude, I'm sick of eating my food. And I'm like, well, what are you choosing? And they're like, well, I'm just choosing this option, this option, this option, repeating over and over and over again. Like, well, that's part of the problem. Like, you got to be excited to eat your food. You got to put more effort into it. And as soon as they do, they're like, oh, I actually like my diet. I don't want to eat off as much. So you're right. Like, the variety is super important. I encourage that above and beyond what they're willing to choose because I give it to them. I give them an exchange list where they can swap out rice for other sourdough bread, pita bread, fruit, dates, juice, frosted mini wheats. I don't care. It's just like something excitement when you're eating 1,000 carbs a day. Like you're just not going to eat 1,000 carbs of white rice all day long. You know what I mean? You change things up a bit. But no, I encourage the variety. I think the variety is very important to keep them on track and make them feel better because all my guys have fruit in their diet all the way through the whole show and through carb up. And they always tell me like they feel much better than they have in the past. Well, of course, you're eating ground turkey and chicken, and half bodybuilders don't like vegetables. So they're not going to eat vegetables. And that's all you're eating in olive oil. Like, of course, you're going to feel like crap. You know, it's like wondering why your car's not running well just on gasoline and no coolant or oil, you know?
No, it's definitely like a refreshing take, because like I'll still have students in my class, like after I'm teaching graduate level nutrition, like they'll say like, oh yeah, if you want to get big, you need to have like chicken and rice. Like I heard that yesterday in a presentation because I was like, we were going over macronutrients, you have to teach it to the class. And I was like looking at this kid, I'm like, did you learn nothing in this class? Like, yeah, like chicken can be very nutrient dense. Rice has its place and its time, but there are better ways and more options. And I like you said, exchange list, that giving people that autonomy can be very advantageous, especially when you're in a sport where your calories and body weight has to go like this and maybe back down like this and just kind of fluctuate, because even psychologically, that's not the easiest thing to do.
But just the comment of saying that stuff bothers me. It's just like, where is the rationale to say that you have to eat rice and chicken to get big? Why not rice and potato? Why not cod and potatoes? Why not cod and orzo? Why not cod and couscous? You know what I mean? Like shrimp and couscous, like a protein and a carbohydrate, dude. You know, like at the end of the day, that's what it is. And rice is chosen because it's not as gas forming. It's easy to digest and break down. It's cheap and you can eat a lot of it. And that's the reason. And chicken's a good source of protein and it's lower in fat and it's cheap. So like, you know, when people make comments like that, it's like, obviously when we're educated, you understand, but like those absolutes bother me. And unfortunately, I hear some coaches in the industry say some absolutes. I'm just like, oh, painful, very painful.
How
You
has
know,
like since you've been in this industry, how has it changed? And I know that's going to be like a really loaded question, but I guess I could add to it. What has changed, do you think, for the better that you're excited to see? And maybe some things you're like, maybe I liked it 10 or 20 years ago.
people are more into their lab work, checking blood pressure and blood glucose. They didn't do that ever back in the day. That wasn't a thing. But people also didn't use as much enhancements either. People were more conservative. It was kind of like somebody goes, hey, take 3 of these. And the people listening were like, I'm just going to do one and not tell him. Or now you get these kids who go, hey, take 3. And they go, I'm not going to tell him. I'm going to take 9. So you have that. Like, unfortunately, like this is the most unpopular opinion, but classic division has increased the use of PEDs among our youth 20-fold, where bodybuilding didn't, because bodybuilding, not a lot of people want to look like bodybuilders. They're like, I don't want to look like a bodybuilder, but everyone wants to look like Chris Bumstead. So they're kind of like, ooh, that's appealing. And then now all you hear is people talk about the gym, trend. I'm just like, I have no words of the level of abuse of drugs that are predominantly the main focus versus legitimately learning how to train, because I think training's the biggest deficit I see every day in the gym. When I go to the gym, I could probably say 2% actually know what they're doing training. The rest of the people are just weightlifting, or I don't know what they're doing. They're just creating whatever they're creating in their mind that makes sense to them. They're just moving weight. They're not actually, they don't know how to train, right? You know, the concept of like you are training versus you are weightlifting, right? They are just weightlifting. But as far as like what is good, I think a lot of people are more in tune with their health, which is great. There's a lot of people that are looking forward to that. There are a lot of people now that are really paying attention to their digestion, and they're paying attention to the aspects of fruits and vegetables. And I like to say that I'm kind of responsible for a lot of that, because I've been talking about fruits for a long time in the diet. And I remember the first time I said to somebody, I had fruit in my diet 2 weeks out from a bodybuilding show. They looked at me like I was crazy, like I was eating ice cream. You have fruit in your diet still? Yeah, why not? Oh, it has sugar in it. I'm just like, I don't even know how to respond to that. You're eating white rice. You know what I mean? So like, you look at the glycemic control of white rice and like blueberries. Like, we're going to compare those two foods. Are we really going to compare these two foods right now? You know? But I would say more nutrient dense foods. Like, I get new clients all the time who come to me and they're like, hey man, I've been really like trying to balance my diet out but more. And they're serious, you know, high level competitors. I want to make sure that, you know, my insides are healthy and I want to perform better. I've been using these fruits and these vegetables. I've been making them like this to make sure I can get them in. So I think there's a more push there to be better. I think the extremism of drug use amongst the novice and general weekend warriors is out of control. But I think I think some very top amateurs are smarter than they used to be, because there is more readily available information online and access to lab work and things that they can do versus, when you're younger. But that's it. Now, as far as like what I miss about the industry back then, the people were competing for them. They weren't competing for Instagram, the notoriety, the road to the pro card. Look at me. I'm nationally qualified. Like, we just competed because we wanted to compete. I could care less if anybody knew it all. You know what I mean? Like, so social media for me is still weird. And that's why I rarely ever post. I post the things that I need to post. But other than that, I'm very rarely ever posting just to post for fun. Just because I still think it's weird. Like posting about my life all the time. I just think it's strange. I just want to do my thing with my competitors and have fun. If there's a fantastic moment I want to document, straight, I'll document it and post it. It's cool. But other than that, that's it. The lack of social media back then was just awesome.
It's interesting you talk about that with the social media aspect, because I don't know whose podcast it was on or whatever. Maybe it was, I don't know, however many years ago, but it was a bunch of bodybuilders talking about like how they're really kind of, I guess, like gently pushing up against the sort of bodybuilder-esque people on social media who are very apt to taking PEDs that maybe they have no use doing, but they're really kind of just getting famous off like Instagram and off like their coupon codes and everything else. And it was like, we should kind of
Oh,
separate these things out. And I've never competed. I'm just a fan of it. But like I first heard you on Fode Abiad's podcast a few years ago, and I was like, oh, this guy's got a lot of great stuff to say. And I was interested to hear what you really thought about that.
yeah. So yeah. That's a subject where it gets me upset, because I remember when that time period happened, right? Dudes are just taking tons of shit and very extreme, and just straight up dangerous. And they're getting this craziest following, and they're just selling stuff, and more people know who they are than the legitimate dude who's won like 13 championships. And like, I mean, I guess that kind of goes to show with how like just Americans are in general, right? Where they're more excited to see a celebrity who does a couple movies or is in a reality TV show than somebody who's like a Navy SEAL and then a doctor and then an astronaut, like that Asian dude. I can't remember his name. Who's like an astronaut, Navy SEAL, and doctor all by the age of like 35. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've
Like,
seen that guy's like book or Instagram or
yeah,
something.
it's like, why aren't we idolizing people who actually accomplish something versus like they went on a reality TV show and they made a fool of themselves and now they're famous? So maybe because people can relate to that when they see an astronaut, they're like, I can't relate to that. I'm never going to be an astronaut. Maybe that's the reason why. But I'm always very in awe of people that achieve things at a high level or are able to do things that are difficult that maybe I can't. That's why I do it. But yeah, I didn't like that either. But honestly, dude, I tried just to ignore that stuff. I really have been somebody who I really like to stay in my own lane. I don't make videos criticizing other things or venting. I do my thing and that's it. I try not to pay attention to it as much as like sometimes I look at stuff. I'm like, that's not for me. I don't like that. I'm not going to comment. I'm just like, whatever, you know?
What initially did get you into bodybuilding? Did you initially want to compete, or were you just like, I love the gym?
Oh, well, how it started was motocross. So like, I love motocross more than anything. It's been the best time of my life. And I started riding dirt bikes when I was 5, started racing when I was 7, and I turned professional when I was 21. But I had a trainer along the way when I was 11, and my mom's like, are you really serious about this? Because my parents saw how serious I was about it. I was riding every day, and like, just all I wanted to do was ride and get faster and faster. I wanted to race. And my mom's like, God damn it, this kid wants to really race. My mom's like so nervous about me racing. She's like, you're going to get hurt. My dad's like, most definitely. Most definitely. That's going to come with it. And he made my parents buy me like a weight set, a little dumbbell weight set, Body by Jake, and some stuff. And he put together like a program. You could say it was more like between a CrossFit style without the crazy weird kipping pull-ups and the weirdness of it. But it was more like functional training, high intensity, low rest between sets, very fast pace. And then he made me do a lot of cardio and running to get in shape. And when I did that, my body changed very fast. At 12 years old, I had abs. Like I had shoulders, I had abs. I remember like my friends pointed that out. They're like, bro, you're jacked. Dude, why are you so buffed? That was like the word back in the day. Dude, you're so buff. What's up with that? And I'm like, look at everybody else. Like they didn't have that. I didn't realize it. It wouldn't even occur to me. It didn't occur to me that like that was something that people pointed out. I was just like with my friends, and they're like, dude, you're jacked. You're like so and so. You guys should wrestle. And then it was just like physical stuff. And then I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. Maybe I want to do more of this weightlifting thing. And then I would go into the basement after my trainer left and do like bodybuilding style stuff. And he would catch me. He'd be so pissed. He's like, dude, what are you doing? And he looks at my arms and he's like, you've been doing curls and you've been doing bodybuilding stuff, haven't you? And I go, yeah. He goes, do you want to be a motocrosser or do you want to look like a bodybuilder? What do you want to do? Because you can't do both. Like you got to be in shape and you got to be able to maintain your max heart rate for 20 minutes. You got to be, your arm's going to pump up. That's not how you train for motocross. And he was right. I mean, like every season it would stop. I would like lift through the winter. And then the first race in March, end of March, I'd be racing and I would pump up so bad and my arm pump and I'd be so tired. And I would just go from like second place to like 10th because I would get so tired. And by the end of the season, I was like back down in weight and athletic again. And then I would be better. But like I couldn't train. And I always wanted to bodybuild. So from that point, I'm like, now I want to like build a physique. I didn't want to compete. I just want to like build a physique. And I always thought X-Men and like Spider-Man and Superman, Venom, they're all jacked. I always thought that was cool looking. Be cool to look like that. And then after I stopped bodybuilding, after I stopped racing motocross, I immediately went into bodybuilding, like legitimately a week later. I told my dad, I was like, Dad, I think I'm done breaking bones, dude. I want to move on. He's like, what are you going to do? Are you just going to be done? I'm like, yeah, I want to bodybuild. I want to try something new. So I think 6 months after that, I entered a bodybuilding show.
See, you were drawn to the classic division then.
No, then there was no classic, dude.
Well, yeah, I know. And C-Bum like really kind of brought that thing in. But like if we're going back 15, 20 years ago and you're like, oh, I really like how Superman looked and Venom and Spider-Man, they
Oh
kind of
yeah,
had
yeah,
that
yeah.
classic look of like, you look good, girls are going to like you, but like you're not like this blown out, huge
Yeah, 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 yeah,
proportion.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then bodybuilding never stops. You can never be too jacked, and you can never be too big, etc. Yeah, but that's how it started. And then like, wow, this is cool. And then learning about nutrition, because I learned a lot about nutrition through motocross too. He had me at age 11. He taught me what macros were. He taught me that like, you should eat 4 feeds per day. Every meal should have a protein, a carb, and a fat. These are proteins, carbs, and fats. He never measure anything or weigh anything. He goes, these are good foods to eat. These are not great, so good foods to eat. So he's always like, oatmeal, frost. He was okay with frosted mini wheats, milk. He goes, have eggs for breakfast. And then he's like lunch, like have a sandwich with whole grain bread or dark bread, fruit, nuts, dinner, a starch, a protein, a vegetable. He was really into that. And, he wanted me to eat well. And he was very into like more pushing fat, protein, and moderate carb, even though motocross you need a lot of carbohydrates. Just because he felt like it sustained energy better. I mean, as a kid, you think about when you're a kid, you can eat Mike and Ike's and Hot Pockets and not drink any water and you have energy forever and you're fine. You know what I mean? Like your body just turns that into like this awesome steak, avocado, and rice when you eat it and when you're young. Your body just synthesizes like, good nutrients out of shit food, it seems like, because you're never affected. Like I remember being younger and like eating awful, eating sausage pizza and then going to a soccer game. And like, I don't have digestive issues. I didn't crash with energy. You know what I mean? But he taught me a lot, and that's how the initial interest started. And then bodybuilding, then it led to bodybuilding.
Who were some of your early influences in bodybuilding?
I liked Sean Ray a lot until I met him in person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked Sean Ray. I was a big fan of Sean Ray. I liked his physique. I thought it was it was tight waist. I thought it was awesome. Until the first day I met him, I thought he was a super dick. Yeah. And then come to find out he's kind of is a dick. But physique wise, Sean Ray was my favorite. I liked Arnold, but like, Arnold's like back in the day, they didn't really know how to train like the other guys did. So like, more physiques were filled out later on. Tom Platz was crazy, but Phil Heath, Sean Ray were my favorites, especially Phil Heath when he first started. I thought that physique was incredible.
I mean, talk about a tight waist. Like,
Oh,
that was the perfect physique at the time.
yeah. When he won the Colorado Pro, I believe his first pro show, he was only on stage at like 218, and his muscle bellies were just, I mean, I can't believe somebody can look like that and only weigh 218, you know?
I remember the first time I saw Kai Green and I saw like all those old videos he had. He was living like in Brooklyn or something and just kind of living on like a shoestring budget or whatever. And he had like the most superhero esque physique. And like that's kind of like his whole thing is like the Predator or whatever. And I was like, that is the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And I think I said that when I was like 17. And then I just got obsessed with like running and lifting and just kind of the whole fitness thing. But that for
He's,
me was unbelievable.
dude, and he's so strong. Like, he's abnormally strong. That's the freaky part. Because a lot of bodybuilders aren't strong in retrospect to like some strongmen and some powerlifters, but like he was so strong. It's like Evan, my good friend who trained with him a couple of times, he comes back and he's like, bro, I trained legs with Kai. And he goes, that was interesting. And he goes, I go up to 5 plates, 495 on squat. And Kai goes to him, when's your first working set? And then Evan's like, well, that was my first working set. I'm going to do one more set and that's it. Or like, 1 or 2 more sets of 495. And he goes, oh, let me do a couple sets to go up. Puts on like 6 plates and like 7 plates. And just Evan's like, dude, reps out like 15 reps, his ass all the way to the floor, pauses all the way up. And it's an astronomical amount of weight. And the leg workout was like 3 hours. It's like, I can't believe a human being can train for 3 hours at that capacity with that load and he's still okay.
I think he even said too, he was like a big hyper responder when he was younger. He was like a jacked kid and then he just fell in love with the process. And you just like put that over the course of 20, 30 years and it's like, here's your
body
product.
just adapts. Then you have that free Kai Green.
And that kind of leads me to my next point with you is with your like exit strategy out of competing from bodybuilding, have you kept on like a lot of the muscle mass and the muscular strength that you would have liked to?
No. I mean, I still look, people always tell me like, dude, you look still super fantastic. Like, I mean, I walk around, I have strided obliques. I have very good abs. I still have lines in my glutes in some shots and like in some poses. Like, I still have some muscularity, but I'm only 205 pounds. So like my off season was 267. I stepped on stage last at around 222. So it's like, I didn't keep, it took a long time to come off. I'll tell you that. So it's like when people go, oh, you're going to lose muscle so fast. It's like, it really wasn't fast. And I was actually trying to be smaller for the longest time and it just wasn't working. So it's like, think about it. You spend 16 years building a body. It doesn't disappear in a year. You know what I mean? Especially if you decide to still weight train it a little bit at any capacity. But no, I'm still fit. I'm strength wise, forget it. But then again, it's also age, dude. Like, you're not very strong when you're 42. Like, my contractile force and explosive power when I was 25 to 30 was just like probably 120% what it is now. You know what I mean? Like, I could rip 405 off my chest and bench. I can't come anywhere close to that. Not even close. I wouldn't even attempt 315. You know what I mean? For 1 rep. There's no way. I would get hurt. So the strength, no. But the way my body looks, the shape and structure, I think still exists from bodybuilding. It's just a smaller version of it. Because I still do weight train. And I still do some cardio. And I was boxing for a little bit. It's a little more athletics, moving more laterally, But there's still a lot there still left over from bodybuilding that's probably never going to go away.
Was that an easy transition for you to come out of competing and everything?
No, because I'm a very extreme personality of all in. So like when I'm all into motocross from like age 7, 8, all the way till 21, and then going from 21 to motocross, to bodybuilding 100% all the way until I was 37. And then all of a sudden you're 37. And then now your body's saying to you, you can't do this anymore. It's not like I can jump on another physical thing. Like, I went right into boxing right away. And I quickly realized that, like, dude, I'm slow. I'm not just slow because I'm a bodybuilder and I was 250 pounds at the time starting boxing, but like, I just physically can't do nearly 50% of the things that I could do when I was 25 just because I was 37. You know what I mean? And then I kept getting injured constantly. And I'm like, man, I guess this is it. This is it. Like, you're just going to have to go through life doing physical things to the best of your ability given your age, and not have the expectation and you're like, I'm going to take this new activity and I'm going to reach an optimal level. No, you're not doing that at 42 years old. You know what I mean? It's not happening. So I think that aspect was difficult. If my body was still intact and I had the physical capability that I did between 25 and like 35, it probably wouldn't have been that hard of a transition, because then I could hyper focus on a new physical goal. But now I realize that those physical goals are completely gone for the rest of my life. It's more like, how can I maintain my physical health now versus like optimizing it to a whole new performance level? You know what I mean?
What's that look like for you now? You talked about like peptides, and you obviously big into like nutrition and obviously staying active.
Yeah. So I went down the peptide route because some of my friends, which I didn't buy into for the longest time, and they're like, bro, just telling you should give it a shot. Give like BPC a shot. You might actually feel better with your joints and your pain. It might be beneficial. And I'm like, I'll give it a shot. And I did, and I felt better. I was like, well, man, I feel better. I'm like, this stuff can't be good for you. It can't be good for you. And then you do the more research, and you're like, there's no research saying it's not. There's no research saying you need to, there's nothing out yet. Could be, maybe not. But thinking the dose I was taking, which I was prescribed through a doctor, was not very much. I'm like, I'll still cycle it, but still makes me nervous, even though it's bodybuilding using enhancements. Sometimes you just still gotta be smart. Like my dad always tells me, he's like, every time you take a drug, there's going to be a positive, there's going to be a negative. Whether you see the negative or not, you might see it 20 years from now. Okay. And he goes, but there is no side effect free drug. There's none. And anything you put in your body, Advil, Tylenol, even, there's a risk. Just like you see the ER visits per year, people who take Tylenol and Advil who have adverse reaction, right? There's people that respond negatively to it. So I was kind of weary of it, but I went to the peptides, and that's been more beneficial to my life and making me feel better to train. But I train with, I go back and forth, man. Like for a while, I was really boxing quite a bit, and my training was very hybrid, like moving laterally quickly, more explosive movements, still doing some bodybuilding movements, but maybe like only 20% of the time. But now I've been kind of like back into like bodybuilding, child style training a little bit, doing a lot more core work, doing a lot of hip mobility and a lot of shoulder mobility work. So overall, I would say my body has felt, this is the best my body's felt in a very long time. Probably because I stopped boxing. Because boxing your shoulders and getting hit in the head and your neck. So like that was kind of like, you trade one thing for the other, right? It's like, oh great, I'm not tearing muscles anymore, but now I'm breaking brain cells and getting my neck jarred around and hurting my shoulders. But I stopped doing that. And then now I'm kind of like just in the middle, going to train just to stimulate muscle, not to like sit there and break records, which I think ultimately is really to blame for me not feeling as beat up, because I'm not pushing loads where my body's like at the brink. It's kind of like I'm stimulating the muscle using volume instead of intensity. Or when I say intensity, I mean weight load. I'm using volume instead of just load, and able to pump the muscle, stimulate the muscle, feel good, and not come out of the gym with like swollen ankles. I mean, swollen elbows and swollen shoulders and swollen knees,
You think you'll ever get a dirt bike?
I do have one.
Do you?
It's bad, dude. So I went down that rabbit hole last year, the beginning of last year. I went all in. One of my neighbors comes over with a little KLX 110. Well, give me that thing. I get on that thing. I start bombing around the neighborhood. I'm like, I got to get a bike again. This is so much fun. And then now that I'm a kid with adult money, I went out and bought the best dirt bike ever. I'm like, now I can afford anything I want. I'm like, put that KTM 350 right in the truck right now. I want the factory edition. I want a new helmet, new boots. And then I started riding motocross after not riding at all for 20 years, which was a tough learning curve, let me tell you, because I remember the speed in my head, but my body, my motor pattern did not. So I was like, wow, I'm terrible. Going into a corner thinking I'm going to like lay it over and my back dump clutch and come out of the corner, and I just go right over the corner. I'm like, what has happened to me? But I eventually started to get better and kind of click, and I had a lot of fun. But I took a couple hard falls. One fall, I thought I broke my back. That made me think twice for a second. I was like, ooh, that hurt. And then I go to stand up and I'm like, ooh, that really hurts. I don't remember this. And then I actually tore my hamstring riding this year, completely ruptured the hamstring in half. And that was the most catastrophic injury I've ever had in my entire life with anything.
Did you tear all three muscles?
No, it looks like I tore the bicep femoris right in half. The semitendinosus, semimimosis is still intact. It looks like it. It might have been maybe a 50% tear in half of the bicep femoris, because I have no real divot. I have a little bit of a divot at the top below the butt cheek, but the belly of the hamstring that comes down that exists on my left side, it's not there on my right side. And the strength of my right side is legitimately 30% of the left. And even with weight training since March, since that's happened, it hasn't gotten any stronger. Like I can hip hinge weight because obviously your glutes and your hips are involved. But when it comes to leg curling weight and isolating the hamstring just says no. It's weird. It's kind of like you go to pick up a weight and you're like, why is this so heavy? Why is this so heavy? And the other side is just like, no problem. So yeah, that sucked. How do you tear a hamstring? So I started to run because I obviously was like trying to be more fit. And I was actually thinking about racing the masters class, or they call it the vet class, and motocross. I was like, man, I get back into racing, dude. I was a professional at one point. I'm like, I'm a professional anymore, but like I'm putting in some good laps. And I remember like pacing some young kids, and I come off the track and I take my goggles off, and these two kids are like, oh, dude, you're an old dude. They're like, damn, man, you go pretty good for a guy like my dad's age. And then one time I came off the track, and this kid's like, wow, you're old like my dad. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, what am I doing at a track with a bunch of 15 and 21-year-olds? You know what I mean? Because motocross is a young man's sport. It really is. And I'm over there just jumping triples and doubles, as I remember when I was a kid, doing it 40 years old, 41 years old. But anyway, I was running on like, what's that speed treadmill? The one that propels itself. You propel it based on how fast you go. And I felt a little twinge in my right hamstring. Oh, and I just stopped. And I was like, oh, maybe pulled the hamstring a little bit. And my hamstring was a little sore. I could still leg curl. I could do everything. But it was sore as far as explosiveness goes. And then 3 weeks later, I'm riding, come across this jump. I come off this jump a little crooked. And then I end up kind of landing like in the flat on the left of a tabletop. And there's obviously, I'm off the track, and there's a big mound of dirt, just like a pile of dirt there. And I hit the dirt, and the bike went like this and kicked me off of it. And I was like in third gear on my 250F. And then when I was tumbling, the bike was tumbling after me. And the bike tumbled and brought my knee to my forehead. So it brought my leg like this and overstretched it. So like it tore from an overstretched sense. I knew it right away. Like I remember hitting my head, being like, oh, this sucks. Like, like the typical feeling you get when you're falling on a dirt bike, pretty bad. And the second I go to stop, I feel the bike hit my leg, and all of a sudden, like the sharpest pain ever in the back of my leg. And then the bike was on me, and some guy pulls the bike off me because my knee was like all in my forehead. And he's like, you all right? I'm like, I tore my hamstring. He's like, how do you know? I'm like, oh, I know. Oh, I fucking know. It was the most pain I've ever felt in my life, by far. It was horrible, Joe. Like it was, like a muscle spasm when it locks up. It was like that constantly. It wouldn't let go. And I'm like trying to figure out, like, how am I going to get on my bike? I got to get out of here. So it's like, I tried to get on my bike on my left leg. I just put my left leg on the right peg, and thank God it's electric start now, these bikes, electric start. And I just sat my left butt cheek on the bike and rode the bike out. I go to my buddy. I'm like, bro, I just tore my hamstring. I'm like, you're going to have to put my truck in the back of the bike, my bike in the back of the truck. And I'm going to need you to pull off my boots, which I don't even know how this is going to happen. I don't even know how you could do that. So it's like, I couldn't do anything in my leg. It was just so much pain. So I had to I tried to put my knee against a chair, and then I would push my femur into the chair so my hamstring wouldn't move. And then he would just wiggle the boot off. It was so much pain. And driving was almost impossible. I had to drive with my left toe. Yeah. It was horrible, dude. Like my whole entire leg turned black.
Did you get it surgically repaired?
No.
Just waited for it to do its own thing?
Yeah. My dad looked at it and he's like, well, obviously if it's ruptured, if it's completely ruptured, you're going to lose some function. You don't have loss of function. And the fact of the matter is that much blood you rip the muscle. You didn't rip the tendon. The tendon's intact. And when the tendon rips off, then you can replace it. You can reattach it, but you can't put together spaghetti, right? If a muscle rips in the middle, you can't put together. So yeah, that was, and it's still not right. So like that injury is going to be the rest of my life. So I sold one of the dirt bikes. I had two, 350 and 250F, and I had a lot of fun, but I'm like, man, maybe I shouldn't be doing this anymore, because what makes me more happy than anything is being physically fit. And if I injure myself to the point where I can't be physically fit, like, could you imagine destroying your knee where you can't run anymore, ever?
Yeah.
It's like, it's to say you like soccer or say you like skateboarding and snowboarding, but you also love fitness. It's like, I'm 30 years old. I love skateboarding, but like, if I get injured and I can't ever run anymore, I think that would make me more unhappy than if I can't skateboard anymore. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of like I've come to terms with. I still got the bike downstairs. I'm like holding on to it. And I'm like, hey, if I could trail ride for fun, but like, am I really going to go for fun? I have trouble with that. I want to get on the bike. I'm like, let's go faster. Let's get good again. Let's learn how to do this again. You know what I mean?
I always think that's the double-edged sword with people who are very type A, high achieving, where it's like, yeah, you're going to achieve everything you've ever wanted to do, but there's going to be a kickback to that. As your dad said, there's no free lunch with regard for taking a medication.
Yeah,
And
no.
I find that way too, where it's like, I feel like every time I like move or I get in a new relationship or whatever, I'm like, okay, this is all of this stuff behind me. This going to chill out. And then I find myself running back to back marathons on weekends, and I race them. And I'm like, I've been to the ER a couple times with dehydration and heat stroke. And I'm like, when are you going to learn your lesson here? And I'm like, I don't know if I ever will.
No, but you're 30. Just keep doing it until your body really says you can. You know,
I don't feel 20 though. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you today. Cause I mean, you've taken it to the Olympia stage, which is amazing. And for me, I'm like,
I haven't been to Olympia stage. My clients have.
but you've been up there, IFBB and everything.
Yeah,
I'm like, all right, you've done some crazy stuff. I'm like the skinny runner guy, but I'm like, I've done some crazy stuff, but I'm like, when is my luck going to run out? And I feel like that's why I have on so many guests. Cause I'm like, give me some insight, man. Like,
dude, my advice is to keep going, because you're only 30, and those types of things kind of come with the territory. It's kind of like breaking bones when I was 20 in my teens really wasn't a big deal. A lot of people are like, oh my God, breaking bones. It wasn't a big deal. But when you get older and like I break my wrist and I can't type, it's my work. Or, now that like, when you're older and you get hurt, it's different. Like, in other words, you went into the hospital with acute renal failure from dehydration from running two ultra marathons at age 55. That's a way different fucking story than you doing it now, because your body can bounce back from that. 55, you might have some serious issues. You know what I'm saying? So like, my advice to you is to keep doing it until there's legitimately signs that says you can't do it, because there's going to be wear and tear in those knees eventually, where your knees are like, yeah, you're going to have to do something else, like biking. You know what I mean? You have to do something else, but for sure.
it's hard to do too, because I always think that if you have a goal, a hobby, a career, which is not physical, you can keep doing that thing. Like if you're a writer, like, here's a guy, Stephen King.
No.
Dude's written like 100 books. He's never going to stop. He can do it if he has ALS. He can just keep writing books. But like for us, no. And like you're not getting those positive hormones. You're not getting like the BDNF and the endocannabinoids and endorphins. Like you're not getting that from your activity. And you're like, am I going crazy? It's like, no, hormonally, you're just not getting the same beautiful supply that you used to get.
Well, my dad said to me a long time ago, I took a super hard fall. When I was 21, and he's like, I'm not going to lie. He goes, I was a little nervous on that one, because the way I fell, I was fine. I didn't break anything. He goes, but the way you fell, he's like, dude, I thought you were donezo. I thought it was done. And you just got up. So you must have just fallen just right, where it wasn't that impactful. And on the way home, that race, he goes, you're going to pay the price one day for everything you're doing to your body. And I hope that you find something that doesn't involve you being physical. Because he goes, knowing you, Chris, everything that you've been passionate about, BMX, mountain biking, motocross, I wasn't into bodybuilding yet at that time. He goes, everything is extreme and everything involves your body at a high output. And he goes, me, I like flying airplanes now. I fly remote control airplanes, and I can do that with my mind and my hands. He goes, I used to play hockey, throw the javelin, run marathons too, but like can't do that forever. So he goes, I'm pretty worried that you're not going to be able to find something that's going to fulfill you. It's not physical. And I'm like, Dad, I feel great. I'm going to feel like this because when you're young, you think you feel great forever. You're like, are you kidding me? I feel fine. I'm going to be doing this forever, Dad. I'm going to be riding dirt bikes when I'm 70 going around the track. My dad looks at me and is like, yeah, okay. How many times our parents laugh at us for the dumb shit we say because they know, but we think we know because we're so young and just we haven't experienced enough to kind of shape what's really coming down the line, you know, and they've been there. So that stuck with me because now I'm just like, man, what am I going to do? But I mean, I love coaching and, you know, I love my guys and I love going with them into the shows and winning. And that's been very fulfilling for me in that standpoint. But as far as like a personal fulfillment for being physical, yeah, I don't quite have that feeling when I race motocross. Let me tell you, dude, it's like you're riding and you're just smiling for no reason. Like you can't stop smiling because how much fun it is, you know?
I used to skateboard for many, many
There you
years.
go.
And then I
Yeah.
got back on a skateboard when I was 25 because that was COVID. It was when I was 25. And I like took a couple hard falls, like dropping into a half pipe. And I was like, okay, yeah, I think I'm going to leave this in the past.
Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? Right. It's different.
Because I broke
It's
my
different.
wrist and I was like doing research in grad school. And I was like, this is going to impact my PhD. I was like, I need this thing.
Dude, that's what I'm telling you. Like, that's exactly where I was at. It's kind of like, it's sad to think about, you know, because I do know guys that still ride and they just hold it together. They're like, bro, I'm never going to stop because I'll stop one day. I really have to stop. And I'm like, I'm also like looking like what makes us happy now. Makes me happy is to be able to exercise every day and be fit. If I injured myself where I couldn't do that and I was the guy in the group on the excursion on a cruise ship, well, I can't do that because of my knee. And I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. You know what I mean? I want to be like the physically fit guy. So like, I'm like you, I'm like, probably shouldn't be doing this anymore.
So with all of your coaching that you're doing and your guys, and like at some point you'll sell off the BMX bike or the motocross bike. Is there anything big in the pipeline that you'd still like love to do? Because in bodybuilding you might be old, but like in general terms, like you're still very, very young. People are living to be 100 now. So like, what are some things that you'd really love to do? Because like you have the mentality. It's just, I don't know, putting it towards whatever.
Dude, I honestly don't know.
That's an okay answer.
Yeah. Because, you know, I went through the shift of like trying to find something else to be passionate about. And I just couldn't quite get that same sort of feeling and drive that I had for motocross and bodybuilding. I mean, motocross was the most fun by far. And I had the drive, but it was so fucking fun. But like I work so many damn hours and manage so many clients that like, because it's so demanding, it's kind of my work. It's kind of my hobby. It's kind of my fulfillment. It's kind of my passion. So it's all kind of one lucky in that standpoint. Like I will work 14-hour day in the computer and I don't feel like it's 14 hours because I'm so engaged with conversation with all my clients and stuff like that. But I don't know. I really don't know. I love my dogs. I have 6 dogs, but I can't think of something that I can't wait to go try to do. I don't know what that is.
That's okay. No, and
Yeah.
I love that answer because I feel like a lot of people look to personalities and people who've been to like really like the mountaintop of like maybe where they want to go. Like we talked about tons of kids in the gym, either just lifting for, you know, fun or like actually training. And they look to someone like you and they're like, okay, like, well, what's the next thing? And it's like, there's no right and wrong answer to that. It's whatever you want it to be.
I like helping people, dude. Like I really enjoy that. I really like making a difference in people's lives. And I coincides with what I do, but it's also kind of funny. It's like my dad likes being a doctor because he likes helping people. And my dad could have retired 6 years ago, but he's not. He's going to go until he says he's not sharp or he has to take the medical boards again when he's 80. But he loves being a doctor, loves it. And like, so I kind of maybe get that from him, but like, I like helping people, like helping people achieve the goals that I've had them help achieve this year with all my clients has just been ultimately rewarding. Like I get great fulfillment out of that. And I could see myself being content and happy with life, continuously doing that.
No, and you're giving something back. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Where can people follow along with what you're doing?
I mean, I don't post a lot on Instagram, but ChrisTuttle.rd is my Instagram. TuttleNutrition.com is my website. I'm not taking any clients on right now. Unfortunately, I have a wait list till May. I have some assistant coaches that can help my overflows. But pretty completely maxed out right now working my guys. But that's it. That's pretty much it. I got a more hydration I came up with a long time ago. It's basically a water enhancer to incentivize adequate hydration in a day. It's got a little bit of minerals in it, not a lot, so you can drink it all day long and not get chubby sausage fingers. But it's also a little potassium, a little magnesium, and a little sodium in there. And I got blue raz, mango peach, sweet tea, and lemonade. I got that business going, and my wife runs Tuttle Equity for investment properties and whatnot. So we're busy running a lot of stuff. 6 dogs in the house, work from home.
It's busy, but it sounds exciting.
Yeah. There's always something, and I never remember what day it is because it's not like any day changes.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, it's my day off. It's like, oh, it's just Sunday.
Yeah. Chris, this has been awesome. Thank you for coming on tonight.
Yeah, no problem, man. I really appreciate it.